Welcome to the Game of Risk, everyone. I'm your host, OliveXC, a top player at this game, and today we're doing Tutor Tuesday, where I review a subscriber game and help them, and you, the viewer, get better at the game of Risk. Today's games come from someone I really wanted to do for a long time. Risky Fil, baby. This man is a legend in the Risk content creation scene. He's been doing it, I think, like one of the longest. He started around the same time as Pete. Before Risk got big, he just did it because he loved it and has worked extremely hard at the game. So make sure to go check him out. He has done so many amazing things in this scene. We are showing a 6-player classic fixed game here. And Phil is playing with like 5 other random opponents. When I look at this game, I'm already seeing, by the way, White is making some silly mistakes when it comes to attacking. So that makes me believe that White is a little bit of a weaker player. But our protagonist, Phil, who normally is orange but is green here, his best play is clearly going to be for Africa. He does have to be a little bit worried about the 8 and potentially getting into a war with him, so he has to be cautious of that. When I look at the black player, he's probably going to go for Australia, but it's going to be very expensive for black to do that. There's a 5, there's a 4, there's a 3 here. Pink will probably end up going for Europe, but they're going to have to work with the other players in order for them to move out of the way. And that will leave blue going for North America because they have a lot of very strong troops there, and it's a natural 2-border location. Red, unfortunately, kind of gets like a bit screwed over out of this. You can either compete with blue for North America or compete with pink, but I don't think that's really much of a mistake. Like, if I was red, I think I would have gone full-out confrontation, go into Kamchatka, and then immediately tack into Alaska. Then also focus on like my 2 eventually hitting the 2 in Siberia and then moving that forward. And you just have to contest the blue player. You see what red is doing with just leaving their 4s, and 3s right here? Doesn't really make that much sense. Phil, though, because he never got attacked, he is just building up his troops. He did risk it a little bit with the 3v1, but there was nothing else that he could have attacked. Like, he could have placed 3 troops here to do like a 4v1, but again, not really worth it. He could have placed 1 extra troop here, but again, like, he's going to be losing those troops. So, it's fine taking the risk, and 1 card's only worth 2 troops anyway. Black, continuing with their story, going for Australia. In the early game, you have to be identifying your continent early and really placing the troops down to go for it. Again, while Black is going for the right strategy, unfortunately, the way the troops are laid out this game is giving them minimal opportunities to do so. Now, if I was Phil, I would possibly consider doing the 5v3, but I think it's better not to be doing that because you're just making the black player's job easier. While our protagonist, Phil, is really far ahead in troops right now with a total of 26, his true total is only 21 because a black player is eventually going to be hitting it. If I was Phil this turn, I would consider just taking over the continent now. I would just make this a 6, pop here, leave the rest of your border on this location. And you're already in an alliance with the blue player, which I think was a very smart move. And then you're going to be fine. As the Africa player, the best places that you could be making alliances with is with the Europe player. So I would try to make an alliance with pink, and as well as the South American player. Making an alliance with white is going to be critical. It's also really important to be making an alliance with the white player, because if you notice, the white player is making a classic mistake that a lot of new players make with their South America play by leaving all of the troops here. They obviously can't leave any troops in Australia because black is going to take it out. They can't put any more troops into Africa. You are going to be taking those out. The only spot left is in Asia. However, there's only a 2 and a 1 there. If the green player loses that location, they're only going to be able to attack into Africa or into North America. Otherwise, they have to give up getting cards. Now, a very advanced player can't just sit down and wait a little bit, passively leaving their troops in Peru. but I don't think this is a very good decision because a lot of newer players just feel like they always have to get the card and they're going to go for it. By the way, we see Phil correctly just using the 3v1. He's trying to be a little tricky and hoping the white player places a troop down and then goes for the attack. I would just say just take the region and just like leave a 3 right here, man. I think you're overcomplicating things a little bit, but not the end of the world. It could just be that he was worried about a player attacking, but if white were to attack, it would just be a pure self-destruct because you'd be having like 12-13 here. But waiting one turn I think is fine. Nobody else having a continent and you leading in troops, you're overall going to be okay. What I'm really concerned about is the conflict that will soon be happening between the black player and the white player once the white player loses their remaining troops, probably with red taking them out. With red lacking a continent, they need to be causing conflict. But look at red, just leaving a 4 here, a 4 here, 4, 4. Jeez, like I don't even know what he's trying to build right here. He's trying to build like the red brick road. Like leaving 4s is silly. Like you're not going to be getting to 12 territories because red was failing to have a strategy. They're going to be eliminated from this game. And white's further digging a hole for themselves where they are losing all of their exterior positions. So white can continue attacking, and in this case they're waiting right here because again they're a little bit weaker. I don't mind them taking it a little bit more carefully. Only going to be hurting them though. Pink is making a bit of a mistake. They are going for Europe, which is a very nice play, but they need to be giving an exit path for the red player. The best thing they could be doing is taking their troops away from the Ukraine region and moving it probably into the 5 or one of these 3s. This way they'll be able to retaliate against the red player if they place troops in, but also gives red the opportunity to leave troops out. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement with both players, and understanding how you can work with your players to move out of your continents is going to be key. By leaving this 4 here, red either is going to have to do a 5v4 or probably an 8v4. In this case, they did the 5v4, which was very risky, but it worked out for them, and the pink player lost a lot of troops. They instead moved out of the Middle East. They would have saved a bunch of troops and probably gained some goodwill with the red player in the process. As a Euro player, you want to make as many alliances with the players as possible. Because your continent is so open to attack, it's impossible to defend in all locations unless you cut your troops too weakly. Europe, though, is I think the second best continent this game because the Greenland region is blocked. All the blizzards, I think, in this game are actually quite impactful. These blizzards really affect the Europe region, and with Egypt being blocked, it makes Africa a lot stronger. Now, Black turned the set into something really crazy, where he has decided to leave all of his set in North America to preventing the blue player from being able to get it. However, he is risking, if red just left everything in one stack and had a 20 here instead, because think about it, it's 10, 15, 19, 20, you can easily have a 20 here right now. If red were to just turned in their set, they had it on 3 or even on 4, they could have came in, stole Australia from the black player, and then black would be kind of screwed. Black's play is trying to do too much at once. They're either going to lose the Australia region, or they're just going to get absolutely dinged in North America by blue, who kind of has to go all in on the region at this point. Our protagonist, green, did do one really nice play where they were just kind of rolling down their 2, trying to build some goodwill with the white player. And is white going to now take over South America? Yes, they are. It could have taken, I think, a little bit earlier. And what Phil is doing is trying to stay far away from them in order to appear non-confrontational. Right now, our protagonist Phil just wants to hold his continent and get as strong as possible. gather up a set, and then take out one of the weaker players, potentially red. Or maybe even blue if they get into a conflict like with black. The one kind of like a danger here is Phil, our protagonist, does not have many locations in which they can be making attacks. Because since there's a blizzard here and a blizzard here, this naturally leaves the area very, very choked off. If they attack into the Middle East, they risk the white player potentially going into them. Because again, remember, the white player has almost no territories left on the board. They can either go into Africa or they can go into North America for an attack. While they can attack North America for maybe a couple of turns, eventually this will be a target. For that reason, Phil kind of needs to keep his troops in East Africa and the Middle East and do like a delicate dance, hoping to be able to get cards for himself while being able to protect against a potential threat from the white player. While Phil is in a position of strength, it's a very tenuous position that can change at any time if any of the players choose to attack him. Now black is continuing to get stronger. Still not going for the continent, but they're waiting. But again, even when they take this, they risk like the red player getting a set and hitting them, the blue player getting a set and hitting them. If our protagonist green was like a weaker player, they could potentially hit them. Now, one thing I think Phil could do here is he could consider taking out blue's position. He may have wanted to do that a bit earlier. Blue has almost no positions like on the board besides in North America. If he had hit the blue player a little bit earlier, the blue player would have had hit like the 3, the 15, or the 6. There's also limited opportunities for the blue player to retaliate for this, right? Because this is barely any troops. And even if the blue player was angry with you, they would have to attack the 6, and then the 4, and then the 1, and then hit hit like your 1s here, because again, you'd be taking out the blue player before going into you. Just seems very, very unlikely. But now we get to, I think, a critical moment of this game. The pink player has chosen to leave their troops in the Middle East, preventing you from now getting a card. And now this was, I think, a bad move by pink because it kind of ties your hand, because you're now stuck on 4 cards. Because again, you unfortunately had no set on 4. And because you lack that set on 4, there is the potential for you to be like eliminated from the game as if someone chooses to go for you. Because people getting those big 10 sets will have you fall very far behind. You could invade the pink player right now and have bad relations with them. You can also go all out attacking them, or you can just sit on 4 cards and hope the situation changes. Here you believe in invading them right away. I understand the thinking behind it. And also you made a small fortification mistake. What I would have done potentially, because I see like you kind of fortified like both here, is you could have just like attacked everything here and then like left like a bigger stack here. You were worried about pink potentially hitting you, but they could do it anyway, right? They can make this a 16 and then go pop pop if they were just really angry with you. Black is now finally taken over the region, but red has a 19 stack pointed at them. Blue, and as we thought, are they going to be hitting the 15 or are they going to be waiting? In this case, they hit the 15. There's nothing else they can do in order to get a card. So now that black has failed to kind of basically doing 2 things at once, hold Australia and stop blue, they now risk doing neither. They should have never placed any troops here because, again, with the white player being blocked, eventually the white player would have to go into someone else in order to get cards. So they would be in conflict with blue or with green, our protagonists. If they had just taken out white earlier, they would have been fine. And again, red is also missing the opportunity. I mean, our protagonist blue missed the opportunity. The key theme this game is always consider small forms of aggression. Phil's focus this game, and all these players' focus is just on the players around them. you always want to consider the ancillary pockets of the remaining players. Because these extra troops have remained here the extra time, it's prevented like more of this aggression from taking place. White in this case is now going into blue, but white could have been going into blue earlier, and blue could have used their set to attack white instead. Yeah, pink now is like again hitting you, but they're not doing anything else. They're at least not breaking you. Now red, I think they should be trying to take out the black player, because no Australia, no win. And what's great since is that the black player is on 3 cards, the red player will be able to trade in a set. And they get the 8 set, so that's actually a pretty good job for them. And now they can probably just fortify their 9 over, or they can even hit the 2. I like that. That's a very good play from red. They can now just, I think probably, yeah, they do leave themselves open in case someone else wants Australia. They also risk the blue player needing to get a card, choosing to do an 11v9. So I think they're failing to do both things now. And again, they're doing the thing where they're trying to do too many things at once, and they risk not being able to do anything at all. We're now in a very interesting position where any player can be making an attack. Like white could be going into green, white can continue aggression on blue, red's asking you to attack pink. Phil has a critical decision to be making, and he's choosing to be passive. He's choosing to do as little as possible right now because he wants to see the aggression and the moves occur somewhere else. And blue gets the trade in, and he hits the white player because blue only wants one thing, North America: cards be damned. And of course white, very, very angry. They get the set, but only the 4 set. They are going in for the attack on the blue player, and 10v6 failed, and now the white player is flipping out attacking. So for now, Phil just took a hit. What pink should be doing now is they should be eliminating the white player from the game. And I would even consider, I don't think they can also eliminate blue, but they can at least break North America. And maybe I would even consider starting moving outwards, because there's so much conflict and tension going on here. As the positions get lower and there's dynamic movements on the board, you can always consider the Continental drift and moving around to other areas. By just kind of staying stagnant and not even getting the kill on white when it's kind of worth it and you're in a very strong position, you're potentially allowing the other players to be getting the kill. The red player now is making a very interesting decision, going for Asia. There is significant risk in doing so because, again, pink may just choose to attack, but Phil is doing, I think, one of my greatest principles in order to improve at the game. And instead of attacking red, who has Asia, he chooses to be attacking the white player because it is worth it to be eliminating them from the game. Phil, by also having one large army, also has his troops available to attack. But furthermore, our protagonist also has the ability to take out the blue player. Does he see that kill? And yes, he does, you guys. He's going to take out blue. He gets a good roll too, only losing 5 on the 8. He gets a really bad trade in, but at least he gets the extra troops on the Alaska territory. We can see in the game is relatively balanced, but Phil is in a position of deciding where he wants to be leaving his troops, and he chooses to stay here. The balance of the game is now decided with the pink player, who must now decide who they want to work with. They could attack red, or they can be attacking green. They also have the sets that are currently leading in troops. The best thing that they can be doing is taking over Africa and then just parking their troops in 2 spots and daring red to attack them. By instead attacking red and leaving the green player or protagonist getting extra strong, they're kind of forcing the red player's hand to only attacking them instead, handing the game to our protagonist, Phil, the green player. When other players are getting greedy, you should be getting greedier. If everybody holds the continents here, the game is still in a sense of balance. Phil wouldn't attack because he would understand it. Then it's really on the first other player making a move. And then red maybe will have to decide what to do and how they want to attack. If they then attack pink, well then pink can like do whatever because it's clear that they can no longer win. But instead, with red just retaking the bonuses, they might as well just break the pink player. But crazily enough, our opponents just gave Phil 3 continents at once. I understand 2, but 3 is just ridiculous. Honestly, Phil doesn't even need to do anything at this point. They can just not even take a card. They don't need to do anything because there's huge conflict between pink and red now. If both players continue to attack each other rather than to attacking Phil, who's the strongest player in the game's going to go to Phil. And the pink player signs their death sentence and chooses to attack red again. The balance of the game you can see right now is very, very close. But red obviously is going to see like the writing on the wall and their limited opportunities available for themselves. Because look, you guys, the total troops right now is around 70 between the two players. But look at Phil with his 15 troops returning. He's now in 65. The balance of the game is almost broken. Phil, if he wanted to, could consider going in for the attack and doing the 35 to try taking out the 32. But it has a risk of failure. And what's the point of going for the attack when the other players clearly hate each other? The other players have exactly one more chance, right? One last opportunity. They need to stop Phil. The pink player should be trying to make an alliance with red, and they should be immediately breaking South America with their 14 and breaking North America to try to at least keep the game in balance. But pink is doing none of that. They are instead just going next to red, being confrontational. And if I was red, I would just throw my hands up in the air and just try to get second at this point. The pink player has failed to maintain balance in this game. And Phil is asking them to attack pink. And if the pink player does this, Phil will give them second place. And you can see he's communicating with them in the bottom right. Beautiful communication from Phil, being able to maintain this. The red player goes in to hit pink as much as possible because they know that Phil's going to be going next. And the pink player, I understand hitting red once, but hitting them multiple times, shame on you, my good sir. Phil just has to trade in his set, use his triple bonus, and such a beautifully executed game right there. Even that 14v14 failed, Phil would still be able to use his remaining stack to take out the pink player first, clear out the other players, and take this game. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful work from Phil. And again, check him out on YouTube. This guy's like a pro, and I can't wait to see how his YouTube channel continues developing. But with that, this is OliveXC signing off.